I kind of just want to go over some of the main highlights of Elon Musk's new Tesla P85D.
Yeah, because last episode, he hadn't announced it yet.
Yes.
So let's see the fruits of that announcement.
Okay, so I watched the unveiling or whatever the show was, and it was pretty impressive. One of the, basically the first big thing to address.
It looks so sick.
Yeah, we have a little picture of it pulled up right now.
It's pretty.
One of the biggest things to highlight is that when it says P85, there was already a P85 model, and now this is the P85D. The D stands for dual motor.
Okay.
There's a motor that is attached to the front axle of the car and a motor that is attached to the back axle of the car.
Interesting.
So what happens whenever they put this in is the motors are actually digitally running.
Like in sync?
Yeah. The way that he was trying to make it out is there's pretty much just like a mechanical shaft that makes most motors run right now. But they're doing it in a digital way to where it's way faster, as far as the mechanical performance that they can, boost it with.
It's not the difference between your foot going down in gas. It's the difference between electricity running and telling that thing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so they basically made it out when they have these two different motors. There will be different efficiency ratios that each of them will have. And so what they'll do is they'll kind of counter or play off of each other. And if one has the ability to be able to produce more efficiency by using that motor more so than the other motor, they'll switch off. And so they basically are becoming way more efficient by using those two motors. Also, this new model is all-wheel drive.
Cool.
With those two motors. So there's a lot more just ground control, and the center of gravity for the car is pretty low to the ground. So having that all-wheel drive just makes you feel like you're just glued to the road.
Yep.
The another thing to think about is the fact that we last
what's this automated driving
last
thing?
podcast I addressed the fact that a lot of the internet guesses were that the car will be autonomous. And to clarify, there's a difference between an autonomous car and a car that can use autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
Autopilot is essentially the user enabling a program that allows the car to drive itself without you physically doing all of the different moves. But you can't just fall asleep and wake up where you're going. You have to still tell it if you want to change lanes, I want to change lanes. And
is this what it's doing, or this is what you're saying it's not doing?
This is what I'm saying it is doing. So the P85D.
So it has autopilot.
Yes, it has autopilot. So they had this little driver's course that they let whenever they did the unveiling. They let the people that went to the show drive in the Tesla D, and so the driver's course was essentially just them starting from scratch, going down this long speedway, which showed how fast it could go. Which, by the way, it went from 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds.
That's nasty.
And, completely electric, which
That's
is
nasty.
so it was silent and just it looked like a roller coaster. They were just you're like, oh my God. And then so they stopped, and then the people that were driving the Teslas from Tesla company were like, all right, so my hand's off the car. We are in autopilot now. And they got into this street that's this curvy street with different road markers. That would, at one point in the course it would be 30 miles an hour, one course it would be 20 miles an hour, and it would respond accordingly to those things. And
wait, so it can read?
Yes, there's a 4 sensor system that it uses.
What?
So listen to this. So there's this sensor that basically reads all of the cars in its direct vision, right in front of it, into So it can kind of see those things and react to things that are happening right in front of it. Then there's another sort of camera field of vision that it has that actually reads signs for roads. So speed limits, warnings or yield signs or anything. It'll kind of be able to read that stuff. Then there's a 16-foot radius bubble reader that's around it. So anytime that something's coming, a projectile coming from the outside or something, or if something's coming into that zone, it'll pick up on it and try and reduce the impact velocity in any way it can. That's its design, is to just if anything's coming in, just design it to try and you can't stop the impossible, right? If somebody throws an apple at you, when you're. It's not just going to like avoid the apple, but it'll be designed to react to the apple coming and lessen the impact velocity as much as possible, so that you're safer for it. And then they have GPS. Okay. So they have all these different things working in unison that allow this thing to be able to kind of propel itself forward. And we're still not at the point where you can just be like, I want to go here, and then it wakes up and
So like with this autopilot, are they? One, is this even legal? And two, are they basically saying that if you're on the highway, you can go and just take your hands off the wheel and let this thing go?
Yes.
But that kind of scares me because that might like prod people into falling asleep by accident and stuff, you know? But the technology is definitely incredible, and I think it's the first step into a different landscape of what cars can do. But does that kind of freak you out a little bit?
It does. I actually watched a little interview with this lady who admittedly was not good at interviewing, but she was asking him about the liability of Tesla and say somebody's using this autopilot and it wrecks them into another car or something. Like, are you going to be responsible for that? Are you going to have a lot of lawsuits coming after you for stuff like that?
I think he should be.
And Elon Musk kind of blew it off, like he didn't think it was going to happen very often. And I thought that was kind of not right. I feel like it was a valid question.
Yeah.
But he basically was trying to instill the fact that it is ultimately still the driver's fault, or it is ultimately still the driver's responsibility to just the way that a pilot for a plane, when he uses autopilot, it's not like you can just you say whatever happens to the plane happens, and I'll just blame it on whoever. Like the pilot is still the pilot, and he's still responsible for what happens. So if there is a given moment where you need to get out of autopilot and do something, then it's still your responsibility.
And I'm sure you can override it simply by just giving it any input whatsoever.
Right, yeah, you just turn off the autopilot and keep going.
And maybe our apprehension is just the fact that we don't really know how this works. I've seen it in action, so our guesses are into this, where we're dividing it in between having it drive our asses around or us driving it. It's going to be something in between, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I honestly can't think of an example where you would be using it to the point where it's not, okay, I don't want to drive, so autopilot, but at the same time putting an autopilot to maybe get your wallet out. I don't know, but
let me think about it. Let me show you this, right? So whenever I drive from school, I hit this certain road called Duval, and then whenever I hit Duval, it's a straightaway for 3 miles until I hit where I need to go and park for school. That would be a spot where I might use the autopilot.
But stoplights.
Huh?
But stoplights.
It reads the stoplights,
it
bro.
It knows?
Yes. I just told you there's 4 systems.
That's insane.
Yes.
Well,
do
we know when it's going to be coming into production?
I don't know when it's going to be officially released. I do know the price point. It's $122,000 at the moment, which is, it's actually really surprisingly affordable for something that has so much new innovation going into it. But it's about 270 to 280 miles per charge, which is clutch. And they're going all-wheel drive, which is the all-wheel drive with the dual motors is actually helping them increase that range a little bit because of the efficiency between the motors and stuff. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of the main things that he was bringing to the table. They said that there was actually some stuff about the brakes and these electromagnetic brakes that they have going on.
Yeah, I'm sure everything in there is got some sort of spin on it.
It was kind of like the same presentation as what Apple did with the 6, where they were like
everything's better,
everything we improved. So
well, cool. We're gonna keep following it because we've invested quite a bit of showtime throughout just the course of our own Witty Banter lifespan to Tesla stuff, and it's always interesting to watch it. And I'm sure everybody else is equally as excited to just see what this thing's gonna be like in the wild.